Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video we're going to be looking at need for new ASIC resistant mineable algorithms, and this is kind of coming off the back of the whole entity situation, which we kind of saw an uptick in that lately, which we'll kind of cover in this. But just for some backstory, the entity is basically a person or a group of people that have a large amount of hash rate on a couple of networks, and subsequently they have kind of infiltrated those networks through Lithium, Radiant, and Kyla coin, I believe it was to start out with. And then after that, so the whole debacle happened, they did partner with Radiant. I don't necessarily agree with that, but to each their own. I think right now we're seeing this kind of uptick, talking about it at least, because we see it on a lot of these K-heavy hash variants. So notoriously, these are not ASIC resistant, and there's been FPGAs, there's been different iterations of the hashing algorithm to try stop this, but I don't think that it's necessarily being stopped too much. So mainly we're going to talk about that and then the need for new hashing algorithms that are ASIC resistant, because we only have a couple that we can look at, and obviously the biggest one being KawPow, which we'll get into, why that's a bad thing or why it's a good thing later on in the video. First off, just looking at the K heavy hash variants that we see here, we saw an uptick. I'm speculating that this is the entity, and I've seen a lot of other people speculate that this is the case. So this is Piran hash, obviously a K heavy hash variant. This is WhoSat. I believe that this is run under Piran hash, which is run under K heavy hash. So you see these upticks in hash rate. So we go from 300 terahash to 700. We go from 12 terahash up to 17 terahash, and they're all kind of in the same period. 2 terahash up to 4.5 terahash. Carlson was 50 up to 141, so that's quite a big jump up there. And then the last one is a K heavy hash variant, or just un K heavy hash, but I don't know if this is necessarily included. The spike looks like it's in line with what we see here. But as I said, not quite sure if this is the entity or not being involved with this one. But for the rest of them, Piran hash, WhoSat, Nexel AI, and Carlson hash, we're seeing these spikes upwards basically. And then it drops off. I don't know whether that's to do with them basically pulling the plug on their whole scheme of mining a bunch of coins and selling it off. Or maybe it just wasn't profitable, because the price of these coins aren't necessarily great right now. And I'm assuming they're working on new coins to go after. I don't really agree with what they're doing, but it is bringing in more conversation about the need for new ASIC resistant coins and ASIC resistant algorithms. So there are a bunch of algorithms that are ASIC resistant, as we all know, but the main one is the KawPow algorithm, which is, I believe, built on top of the ProgPow algorithm. If we look down here, I think it's ProgPow Z that you see here. So we have a lot of them that we can choose from. KawPow is the main one, but the only kind of reason that I think we need a new one is because the KawPow algorithm is very GPU intensive and it requires a lot of power, so there's less mistakes to be made in terms of profitability. There's less of a safety net unless you're mining on a very efficient algorithm, which KawPow isn't necessarily. You have this Ellis hash v2, so that's obviously been changed from the version 1, which wasn't ASIC resistant. I'm not sure if this is technically still ASIC resistant, but I'm sure somebody will come along and it won't be ASIC resistant very soon. Piran hash, obviously we've seen FPGAs on that. Fish hash is a new one, so we had Ironfish being taken over, and then they reverted to Fish hash. So they actually did something about their hash rate spiking up too much, and that was to change the network over to Fish hash. I don't know what this is built on top of to give them this, but I'm willing to bet it's something to do with memory hardening, like we see with the KawPow algorithm. And then you have Script, which is obviously ASIC, ETH-hash, dynex solve. I believe that there's potential to have FPGAs on this because it was outlined that they started the network on FPGAs. So there's definitely something out there that can mine on the solve algorithm with that. Autolycos, which is from Ergo, which is ASIC resistant, but nobody's really using that as an algorithm anymore. You got a bunch more. NexaPow, I believe you can have ASICs on the network, like they're not stopping that. Carlson hash obviously compromised, and then Late 3 Lithium already has ASICs. ProgPow, as I said, is just KawPow is just the upgraded version of ProgPow in terms of mining. So at the top, you've got randomx, which is the most used currently. That's obviously a CPU one, so it doesn't really matter for GPU mining. Cubic, I don't necessarily know kind of what that algorithm looks like, because it's not necessarily, in my opinion, a straight mining algorithm. But nevertheless, that's not really a GPU mining algorithm either. So KawPow is the most used right now, as it looks like, in terms of how many miners are mining on different algorithms. Just to give you an idea of what this looks like in terms of coins we can mine, obviously Raven Coin, Claw, NeurAI, Nexa, AI Power Grid, Satox Coin, Friend Coin, Game Pass. I don't think any of these are actually, worthy about speaking. But you can see that there's some kind of top coins up there that do have an ASIC resistant algorithm. So hopefully that does save some of us GPU miners, but Ravencoin was one of the first to really introduce this and be the biggest kind of ASIC resistant one out there. That's kind of a legacy coin in my opinion, but that really forefronted the ASIC resistance and the need for it, and it was great for GPU miners probably 2 years ago, and then anything later than that. I know that there was a lot of profits to be had on Ravencoin. Subsequently, that obviously hasn't turned out for this bull run. Now there are other ones that I could mention like Ergo or Flux, but this one has kind of been the main standout one, and clearly it is the standout one because everyone else is using their algorithm. These main coins that have popped up that we've been mining over the past year and a half have been very big in the space. Nexa, Claw, NeurAI, AI Power Grid, they all supplied a bunch of profitability that we could utilize. And then, as I said, ProgPow is basically the earlier version of the KawPow algorithm. So KawPow is forked from ProgPow. I don't necessarily know what they actually changed for that, but this has been one that's ASIC resistant as well. So it starts off ASIC resistant at ProgPow and then develops into KawPow for Ravencoin. But you have Xano, Epic Cash, Sub-Zero, and a bunch more. But mainly, we do need a new ASIC resistant algorithm, or at least coins to start building on top of different algorithms, because right now it's kind of flooded with KawPow algorithm coins. They're not as good for GPUs. I know that it is a little bit different because you kind of have to use these algorithms to ensure ASIC resistance, but I think in the future, hopefully, we can see somebody develop an algorithm that isn't as intense on a GPU and doesn't necessarily require a lot of power. The reason that a lot of people went over to the kaspa algorithm or the Alephium algorithm was because it was very efficient for the GPUs. You could also dual mine and stuff like this, which would bring you more profitability. Subsequently, because they're so efficient and they don't have any blocking features on them, you can then have ASICs and FPGAs. So it's kind of a trade-off between the two. And we haven't specifically figured out yet within GPU mining how to create an efficient algorithm which also blocks the ASIC resistance. So it's a two-way street that normally trades off either ASIC resistance or efficiency on the algorithm. And the main reason that I want to see in the future this obviously happening is to protect against these sort of things that we're seeing here. So all of these coins, if the entity, or in quotation marks entity, has mined all these coins and sold them off, that's basically going to tank the price, which means that they can just destroy coins whenever they want. They can destroy networks whenever they want. And the only reason they can do that is because they have a large amount of hash rate, whether it be FPGAs or ASICs, it doesn't really matter. It's more about not letting the network get attacked in a certain way, because they could use this for a 51% attack if they wanted to. However, there's more monetary gain to be had if they just use it as, a massive spike on the network. They're going to take all the blocks and then they're going to run with all that money and probably buy more hardware and produce more hardware that is better to mine different things as well in the future. So this is the main caveat that has kind of propelled it. I think that they got a lot of profitability from Radiant and Alephium, and that kind of sets them up financially to go do whatever they want to do in the mining space. We're kind of seeing that right now, a massive spike in hash rate all at the same time as well, which is interesting to see them have this amount of hash rate, because if it was for one algorithm, one coin, at different times, that would kind of show us that they only have a certain amount of hash rate or hashing power, but it looks like they have a substantial amount, because you can see all these spikes happen at the same time because they are individually putting a lot of machine power towards 4 different networks at the same time. And they always go through hero miners and they're always using the SG port, which means it's coming from Asia at least. I think that's what it comes from. So they're definitely based in Asia, which obviously has lower power costs, and that's kind of like the melting pot for technology in terms of any type of technology, but chip technology, FPGAs, ASICs, stuff like that, and computing in general. So this video is kind of just ranting on the fact that we do need a new ASIC resistant mining algorithm. Not everyone should go over to KawPow just to have that ASIC resistance. I think we should have a new algorithm that's kind of developed, and if anyone's out there that is into that stuff, maybe that might be your next project to kind of take the KawPow algorithm and make it slightly more efficient without sacrificing that ASIC resistance, and then release coins upon that. And in turn, if a algorithm is more efficient and it's a place to stay in terms of GPU mining, you will capture a lot of hash rate just based off that, and then you can start to grow the coin out to what you think it should be, because you already will get a large amount of GPUs securing your network and upkeeping it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, kind of what you think about new algorithms, if it's possible to do certain things with them, and try to make a new ASIC resistant algorithm that's slightly more efficient, or we see more adoption of coins onto different algorithms that are ASIC resistant. Make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content like this.